And we can also take a look behind the scenes at the wild mount map that I've made too, so we can see how sometimes this gets a little complex if you have a lot going on behind the scenes, but you know, you have a lot of control over it, which is what I really like. Forests. We're going with the green. Here I come with my desaturated colors because I like that. Not that desaturated though. We want it to be distinct enough, so enough saturation. But I don't like it to be pulled too much. I think that's pretty good, but that makes me want to change my mountain. My mountain looks a little brown. Actually, I also need to change my nightlight settings. I turn on my nightlight settings so I don't have to stare at these bright screens, but oh my gosh, yeah, they just go so blue if I don't have that on. But it really helps when you're trying to define the color. No, that's a little too light. I think that's pretty good, but yeah, I don't like this mountain. I think we need to go a little bit higher in brightness. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. You know, tweaking. That's what you got to do. Just keep going back and forth, see what you like. And also the nice part is too, with an interactive map, you know, it's like not like it's set in stone, so I can always come back in here and change it. I know for some of my other maps I've gone in and changed the colors because you know, I didn't like the way they looked, or tried a new color and I was like, oh, that's so much better. Yeah. Let's see here. I think we'll come back to styling in Mapbox. I think we can add some more land cover features or things like that. One thing I also do is I add my geographic labels to here rather than actually dynamically in the web map. So like, let's take a peek at the wild mount map. Wild mount. So as we can see here, I've got a lot more layers and a labels group actually. So I add my labels to the actual base map itself. So you can't click on them or anything, but it keeps it lighter in terms of loading the web map if they're just a part of the style. So what I do here, and we can take a look at a little peek behind the curtain of what this looks like in terms of data. So these are all the layers in the map now. And these are just points that I have with a name field. And that's how I add them. I just don't show the point and strictly show the label. So then they become labels like that. It's cool. This is like a cool little night mode of the data. Yeah, and we can take a look at the bathymetry here. I've got this, yeah, across a data range of the depth of 400 is the lowest and the darkest. So I choose that color and I choose the brightest color I want, and then it sort of just adds and it interpolates every value in between and gives it the appropriate color and depth. So it's really easy to do that too. Currently right now, I've got a Patreon that I set up. I try not to lock anything behind a paywall for like my free stuff. So like using this wild mount map will never be behind a paywall, you know, and some of these other public things I do. But what I want to do is, you know, obviously make this a little bit more, you know, lucrative in some way for me to keep doing this. And some incentive. So what I've got going on right now on my Patreon, I just started today, is a little poll for adding features to this map. So like if you use this map, or you know somebody who does use this map, send them my way, send them to my Patreon link, which should be below in one of the panels, because then you'll have a say in the next feature I put in there. And so I think right now there's measuring, but it's only in miles. So I could add measuring in kilometers, or the metric system for people like Plonky. across the pond. Who wants to see things in miles and feet? Am I right? We want meters. So I could spend some time doing that. Otherwise, I've also had some inquiries about, in the book, there are some city maps too. And so what you can do, and this takes more time, but it would be really cool. You know, you can zoom in to where a city would be and then have the buildings pop up and so you could actually see the layout of the city. So that's a couple things. Other things would be including things like bound or like isle names. This is the island of Isle Cross or something like that. And you know, making labels for some of those things. So I just wanted to give my patrons and the people that, you know, I've got a couple that have been supporting me, and so I really appreciate them and want them to get, you know, have some exclusive say in you know, some of the things I do, even though I try to release as much as I can to the public, including these tutorials as well. So, you know, if you like what I'm doing, feel free to hop on over there and contribute, but you don't need to. It's a weird time. Pretty new to mapping and have usually uploaded data given to us or base maps on ARC. How do you create a map layer of a location that does not exist? Do you draw and upload, or how does it work? Yeah. No, I get what you mean. So like a fantasy map, like how am I able to render this in actual mapping software? Even though this landmass does not exist? That's a really good question. So, and we can go back here a little bit. Oh man, yes, this is just so bright on my screen. We'll go back to the GIS here, and we're gonna darken this a little bit. Yeah, that's all right. So for this actual landscape, what I did was, so, you know, you may have worked with some digital elevation data. Then that's all this is. This is already geo-rectified elevation data. What the heck? I like that blue. I should have stuck with that blue. Huh. Sorry, distracted. So like when I go in here and I'm gonna add, where the hell is that data? Maps, data, geographic data, physical data, raster data. There we go. Cool. So this is real world data. So it's really easy for me to do that, and then I just sort of flood this, which is, you know, I guess, yeah, it would be good for me to keep all this together. So this is elevation data in like southeast California. I flood that data by just changing the values of the symbolization until I find a landmass I like. Then I export that data after recalculating it, so it's just ones and zeros. Then I export that into land. And so it's already got geographic coordinates. And then it can be rendered on a map. So it's just like a polygon, and then I make believe that it's actually land. Yeah, it's a really cool process especially if you suck at art like I do. And I can't, you know, like I couldn't draw this. I'm not super good at art. And it would take me a long time. I would have to do a lot more practice. So what I did was just cheated in a cool way. But also, so that's one way to make them from scratch. Let me see here. Oh, project open recent. If we go to like, let's go to Taldor Alexandria. We'll peek behind the curtain here. So here's the like the overall map world of Critical Role. I've got to do some a little bathymetry adjustments if they're going to be next to each other, because obviously they'd sort of blend rather than being standalone. But for these ones, what I do is I take the map that's not that map, this map. So this is the official map from the Critical Role book, and all I do is I set this like 0, 0 is right over here or something like that. I put this map into my GIS software and give it coordinates of 0, 0, so that way, you know, when I create my features, they have real world coordinates, and it's really easy to find as well. So I just sort of give this an arbitrary location on the Earth's surface and then go from there. Yeah, so that's how I do that. I'm gonna go back to the tutorial. Yep. So that's how I get that on there. Okay, let's go back to actually Mapbox. Yeah, no problem. Cool. I think this is... That's all I really have for this part here. There's not a lot to show. I didn't spend too much time making any of these. We can come back to that. But so now I'm going to publish this Aquik, the land of Aquik. Cool. It's that easy. So now if I go back to my styles, I'll see Aquik here. And so if I want to make a web map using Mapbox GLJS, I need to give it a web map that I've made, or any one of the basic ones, a style, I should say, a style of a map. And I also need permission to access that. So here's my custom ones that I've made. Only I can access these with my tokens. And they're like this long string of, it's kind of like, you know, it's a key of unlocking my stuff for anyone to use. So the style itself is referenced with a URL, but I also need the corresponding key. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into glitch, where this is located, where I've been doing my development here. Let's zoom out a little bit. I think that's good enough. Right now I'm looking at my old one that I had made with more cool landscapes, but we're just going to, for the purpose of this. So I'm going to go into my style that I created, should see it under styles, and copy that. And here's my whole document here. So I've got HTML. You can break this up, and I recommend breaking it up, but for glitch's purpose, it was a lot easier for me to keep everything into one HTML. So but it's split up with my CSS is all right here, and then my JavaScript is pretty long, which is why it's good to break it up. And that's all my JavaScript. The only thing that really matters in the HTML is calling the Mapbox functionality from the web, so that I can actually use Mapbox's functions, and then also making a DOM element for me to put the map into. And so that's this div with the ID of map. And then I give it a couple properties here. Position absolute, width 100, top bottom. That just way it's really easy to fill the entire width of the image or of the window. And yeah, so here's where we first instantiate the map. So here's this token that allows me to access my map styles. But what we want to do here is I copied this, not here. I copied my style URL to summon this specific style. And this is when I create my map with new mapboxgl.map. I want it to load this as the base map. So this is the style. And this should auto refresh with that style. Cool. It's looking at the map container. So that's looking at here, this div right here, and saying, okay, go and put this new map there. I give it, it's got its coordinates. This is really handy too. And this is, you know, what you keep track of. to help you find this stuff, so that automatically when the map loads, it'll be centered on your landmass. The zoom as well is really good. You can also set max bounds too, so that I don't scroll infinitely this way, because this is just, remember, this is like, if we're zoomed in on California, I could still zoom all the way to technically where like India is, and not be able to find my map. So if I keep scrolling like this, and then I can't see this anywhere, so I'm going to want to refresh to bring me back to my default settings. And now I want to import my cities from before. So I want to I'm going to create a new file, upload a file, and right now I'm going to upload the cities that we made in the stream yesterday, or no, it was Wednesday. It was 2 days ago. Yeah, in the stream on Wednesday, made a couple cities. They're kind of in the same location. Redport is in the same location as one of them. Where did I save these projects? Just looking at my browser, my Explorer, Windows Explorer here. Tutorial? Yeah. I think so. Landmass, cities, no, I knew it was a GeoJSON. Cities tutorial. Cool, okay. So this is the old one I had made, and here's my new one. Awesome. So now how we reference that here. So now we've got our map. Let's comment out some of this functionality. We can go over things a little bit more in depth. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So to add points onto the map, we need to do a couple things. So when we want this to be, when the map loads, we have to add an image for the symbols for our points to be represented by, and then also a source, actually the data for those points. So first, we're going to load this image using this URL, which is retrieved from here. So it's kind of like you would use relative pathing if you're actually doing this development on your own. So that's going there. And so once that image is loaded, we give it a name called icon cities, and then add it to the actual map so that we can use it. So that's what that whole thing does. Once that's loaded, we want to add our source, which is our GeoJSON, our cities, where that icon is going to live. So these are the old cities right here. So I'm going to go find my URL to my new cities. And again, this is just a glitch thing, is that it serves it up on a content delivery network so that I can access it via the web. You would want to use relative pathing if you're doing this on your own. Cool. So now I'm adding that source, naming the source cities. It's a GeoJSON, and the actual data is right here. So those are the parameters for adding source. Now the map knows that the image exists, and it also knows that that data exists, but it doesn't care until we tell it to add that data in that image to the map. So we are going to uncomment this stuff here, and then we'll break it down. Hopefully it works. It does. Oh, did I not add another city? Or did I? Oh, they were just so close. Oh yeah, real town final too. Cool. Okay, so we look at our map object and we say add layer. And here's the parameters for that. So the ID, we create an ID for the layer so that it can be referenced and uniquely referenced in the code. It's a symbol layer. That means that we have an image on our own that we want to use. You can also do circles without actually loading something, and that is, Mapbox functionality. I would definitely check out the Mapbox documentation. I'm going to scream it into my URL. So like adding symbols. Oh, let's just go to Mapbox GLJS. You can see this is pretty long here. There's a lot of good information here. Sometimes it's hard to parse through, especially, and it's really intimidating. But what I would recommend doing, especially if you're just getting into this, is to start with some tutorials that already have some code there, and then you can kind of learn a little bit about the functionality of what it does while you're mapping, and get it in little bits and pieces. And then, like, if you have a question of, I want to do this with the data, how do I do that? Go to Stack Exchange, go to the documentation itself, and see how you add that yourself. Cool. So I'm telling it, I've got my own image. I want this layer to be named cities layer. The source, that's the data that it's actually looking at. So this is why we had to add that source up here, and we gave it the name of cities. And we cite that right there. So if I change this name to towns, we're not going to be able to see these anymore, because it's now, this is looking, when I'm trying to add this layer, it's looking for a layer named cities. And I don't have that. But if I change this to towns, there we see them now, because it was actually able to find it. Cool. Now the layout property of a layer is where you do all of your styling for it. So I'm going to add the image to the layout properties so the map knows which symbol to use. And so that's what this icon image is, my icon layer, which I've defined up here when I added that image initially. You can do a couple cool things with the icon. You can give it, I could give it the static size, and let me see here. Let's try to do that. We're going to comment some of this stuff out and see how it works. I can give it just an icon size of 10. Maybe. Maybe not. Interesting. Yeah, so oh, there's a couple different things you could do. You could do steps. So right now I'm just telling it how to render this symbol, and I'm doing that by interpolating linearly across zoom ranges. So that's what all these parameters mean. It's kind of hard to parse, and it's kind of hard to find sometimes in digging through the documentation. But what I'm telling it is, at zoom level 11, I want my symbol size to be 0.05. And when I get to zoom level 18, I want it to be 0.02. And anywhere in between there, just kind of stretch it and automatically calculate what size it should be. And so that's what it's doing. Whereas we zoom out over here, like this is as far out as we can get. It's now 0.05. And as we get into zoom level 18, it's a lot bigger. It's 0.2. So about four times its size. And that makes sense. I mean, that's just how cartography typically goes, you know. Out here, I don't have as much space, so I want to save as much space as possible. But when I'm in here and zoomed in really close and my points are further apart in the actual view, then I can make them bigger so that they're easier to see. Here's some other parameters here. This icon overlap, text overlap. I'd look into those. I won't go into too much deep into those. Basically, it's telling me that I can allow things to overlap, or right now things are allowed to disappear. So if I set this to true, and true, now we can see them both, and they're kind of clustered here, and it makes things busy. Whereas if I set these to false, it'll automatically fade some out. That way it's easier to see. And you can also add priorities into this when it's, what is it called? Shucks. There's a property. Shoot, what is it? The sort key. So if I look up sort, Mapbox sort key. Symbol sort key. Yeah, that's what we want. So sort key is something that lets me predefine the priorities of how Mapbox should render these. So if I give it, you know, you enter in values, and so if I've got two different layers and with two different sort key values, I can have one show up over the other. If it has to make the choice to only show one. So that's kind of cool. So like if you have capitals or something and you have smaller surrounding cities, you don't want those smaller surrounding cities to make the capitals disappear. And they might if there's more of them, and the code just thinks, oh, these are equal points, and it doesn't matter which ones I show. I'm going to show whichever ones make it easier for me. But it matters to us. It matters to us. Cool. Yeah, so there's a bunch of other things here that we can go into, but now we do see our points on the map, which is neat. The next thing we want to do is to we want to be able to click on these. So right now, if I keep clicking, nothing happens. That zoom happens on the double click. That's just Mapbox's way of telling it to zoom. Is I can do a double click and that zooms to that location, but I want to see a pop-up when I click on Port St. Anthony. So we can do a couple things here. Let's just add the functionality to on click. We want it to show our data. So this is some stuff that I had scripted in here before. Oh, that's too much. That's pretty good. So again, we're gonna, everything we do here is attached to the map object in the DOM. So that is that map object we made up here. The variable map is a Mapbox.gl map object. So then we tell it whenever the map is clicked, if you're clicking on this layer that we had made, cities layer, obviously these two cities, we want it to run a function. And basically this is going to be our function where we create our pop-up. So on that click, here's a couple things. It's passing the event, the click event, as E. So we want to get the features we're clicking on, the geometry and the coordinates, and we want to store those because that's where we're going to actually place our pop-up, and that's where we're going to tell Mapbox to place the pop-up. You could probably do other things if you want to. You could do a zoom too if you wanted to. We want to get some information from the data itself. So we want to get the name and the information. I believe this is info2, if I'm not mistaken. So if we go to the cities tutorial and recheck our data, we want to see, open the attribute table. Yeah, the field we want to access is info2, and that's because I messed up the other day. And where I named my other one what it shouldn't have been. Or I didn't do a character limit like I should have had. The correct one. Okay, so we're going to access info2 as the field. And now, so we've got all that information when we click. Now we need to do stuff with that information. So the first thing we're going to do is create a variable to store all the pop-up content. And this is all going to just be HTML. because a pop-up itself is just an HTML element. So these are checks that I like to have in there. In that way you can have different information for each port. Like let's say this port has a population listed, but this one doesn't. We can still use the same logic, but we need to check if those fields are null or undefined. And this just is a little bit easier for workflow stuff. So now when it's clicked, go into, we've got the name property, and let's add that with an H2 element, title element with a padding on the bottom of 5 pixels to give us some space. And then we'll add a little horizontal line to sort of separate that from the information. Then we are going to add the description, if it exists, as an H3 element. Sorry, the description is the word description is an H3 element, so it's emboldened, and then the text afterward is just text in the HTML. Cool. I'm not exactly sure. I think I copied and pasted this from a Mapbox demo, and I don't exactly know what this comment means. The pop-up appears over the copy being pointed to. Interesting. I don't totally know what that means, but it's in there. And sometimes you'll find that. Okay. So finally, we've created our pop-up, and we haven't styled it at all. There's no CSS, and we'll do that in the CSS here, is that we can have it styled. But for right now, it's going to create a pretty basic pop-up. And so Mapbox, we're making a new Mapbox pop-up to set the lat long of the coordinates, set the HTML as the pop-up content, and adding it to the map. So now if I click here, we have this. And it automatically has some functionality baked in with a close window. So now if I close that, it does this. But now we can see Port St. Anthony with the description of this port city is known for its wine production. Ironically, its port wine isn't that great because we're so funny. Real Town Final 2. That works as well. So, I mean, we could leave it there. We don't want to leave it there because if I hover over here, you want your user to know that those are clickable. So if I'm moving my hand here, we see that it doesn't change when I go over there. And I want it to change so that the user knows, oh, I can click on this and it's going to do something. It doesn't really matter for a mobile context, but for desktop viewers, that does matter. So back up here, this is what we're going to do. There's a little functionality here to program. Clay, things are well over here. We're just doing a little follow-up stream on the mapping stuff that I did the other day. I rushed myself through the end, and that was partly the most important part. So I wanted to revisit it in a casual setting as I drink sparkling water from Target. So we've got some functionality here now that I've uncommented. That's this function right here. So we need to tell the map to change the cursor, that's your mouse, when it hovers over a city in the cities layer. So on mouse enter, on the cities layer, we want it to map.getCanvas.style.cursor equal that to pointer, which is the hand that looks like this loser symbol. And that way, the user will then see that change and be like, oh, I can click that. However, you also kind of have to hand hold it a little bit, ironically. So if I hover over it, it makes that change, but it doesn't change from that. So then I need to add another event called onMouseLeave. So there's mouse enter and mouse leave. So when the mouse enters the area of this, it'll turn into the pointer. When it leaves, it'll go back to the default. Kind of, I don't know why exactly that's in there. and why it doesn't sort of do that by default, but you do need to program that. So now we've got our basic functionality, and it's all usable. It's working exactly how we want it to. What do we do next? I don't know. We could add more if we want to. Add more land cover shapes. Or we can add a backdrop to our, I don't know, what do you guys want to see next? We can add some styling to the pop-up to make it look like parchment or something like that. Otherwise, we can go back into the GIS and add some other interesting, maybe more towns, more land cover features. Let me know what you think. I'm gonna just take a quick look here. The backdrop. So, oh, gotcha. So the backdrop for the stuff, yeah. Let's do that. So what I've done here, and let's see if we can find it. So what I've done is I've created my own backdrop, which is just all it is an image. And let's find that image, and then we can upload that. Where am I going here? Oof. Why can I not find? Where am I? I know you guys can't see this, but I'm struggling. Maps, images, pop up. Okay, cool. We'll go back here so we can see it. Cool. Go to maps, projects, tutorial test, and we're gonna put this this pop-up image right here. And I'm not sure if you can see it easily. But it sort of looks like a tan square, and we'll see as we get closer here. But what I want to do is then upload this to Glitch, so Glitch has access to it as the pop-up image. Cool. So this is just an image I made, added some paper texture and added like a little, I don't know. I just kind of like made its edges jagged and stuff like that. So now all we need to do here is actually edit the CSS in over here. So let's just see if we can find some of this stuff. So right now I don't have any sort of information regarding any styling regarding the pop-up here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some stuff for it, and I want to find the right stuff so I know. And basically how you find this out here is if I click here, where's my I want to go to the inspector. I don't think you guys can see that. Oh no, you can. You can see my inspector. Cool. If you want to style an element, I open up my inspector in Chrome, which you can do as like the dev tools. Right click, inspect, or do Control-Shift-I. Also, I want to go back to, well, I'll go back to the browser view here because my face is blocking some stuff. But over here, I want to see exactly what this is. So I can see here that the div has a class of Mapbox GL-popup-content, and I want to style everything in there. The actual parent one of that though is just the pop-up itself. So it's got a class of Mapbox. Oh shoot, Mapbox GL dash pop-up. And here you can give it a max width and style it just like it's any sort of other div element. The thing that we want to do here is just change the background to be an image. So I believe I go into my assets. I've got my image here. I'm going to copy this URL, which is, you know, if you do this separately, it's going to be a URL, a relative URL if you store it in your project. Man, that's long. Background size 100%. 100% overflow is visible. That way that it doesn't limit, you know, I guess we can do a little play around to see what happens if some of those properties aren't in there. But now if I click on this, I should see, there we go. We can sort of see our edge of it here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but just peeking out behind that white, we see it. But that's because there are some other, so there must be some other content here. Some other styling of the default Mapbox stuff that is preventing us from actually seeing that. And what that is the styling on the actual content in the pop-up. And so what we need to do is then style that by targeting the Mapbox GL-pop-up-content, giving it a background of none. We want to take out anything that's in there, any of the background styling that's preventing us from seeing the image itself. Some of these other things too, I've added some padding so that it looks, you know, it doesn't go right up to the edge of the paper in the pop-up, and instead has a little bit of a breathing room so it looks cooler. And one other thing that I found that was important was in color. I had someone was using one of my maps and they said that, you know, none of the text was so light, but it's because they had you know, a dark reader on, a browser extension dark reader. So it alters the CSS of pages, and so it alters the text and makes it white because it makes all backgrounds black. However, you know, if the background is this image like we have, we need to make sure that it doesn't alter that. So I added the important tag, and I think that works. I found that works. Cannot totally confirm because I don't actually use a dark reader. But now what we should see is probably the pop-up working as it needs to. Excellent. Yeah, so all we need to do to add this is, and we can change this image to whatever we want to. One thing now we want to take care of is this little arrow. And so this is something else that Mapbox has. I think it's called, we can take a look here. Pop-up tip. So the final part of this pop-up styling is now to get rid of the pop-up tip. And I guess what we should do is look at it first in the DOM. You guys can't see that. See, I want to terminal. Nope, I don't think that's what nope, not what I want. Logs. I don't want to see the logs. I just want to see the inspector. They don't. Glitch must not have an inspector. Change URL. No, we're gonna go back to this view then. So we're gonna open our inspector on the page to find out exactly what we need to alter with our CSS. So here we've got that Mapbox GL pop-up, and so that is the overall pop-up that contains everything. We've altered that already. We've got two things: the Mapbox content, which we've altered. We've added some padding. We've removed the background from it, so that lets us see the image on the backdrop. And then there's the Mapbox pop-up tip, which is sort of that little arrow that makes it a speech bubble, points to the point that's on the map. That's what we want to get rid of. So all we have to do is really just give that a display of none in our CSS, and then it'll disappear. or we could style that on our own as well. You can do tons of different things with styling. Obviously, I'm not, you know, there's a lot of cool things you can do with CSS. This is all pretty basic stuff, what we're doing. So now if we open it, it is still anchored to that area and will alter based on the view. But it doesn't have that pop-up. We could also just change the color of that pop-up so it matches this outside thing too, the outer edge of it, so it blends a little bit better rather than just being that white thing. But I just got rid of it overall. One thing we want to do here now that we notice is that we've added that padding, and it's sort of pushed out. We need to move this this close button right here. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. Oh shoot, I also want to go back to my other view so I'm not blocking everything. Right here we've got the close button is like on the edge of the paper, and so it looks like it's outside the paper. We want that on the paper. So we just need to add, we find the class, and I won't switch back to it, but that class is Mapbox GL-popup-close-button. And then we just position it with a top and a right attribute so that it angles in a little bit more and is actually on the paper. So there it is. And now our pop-up is complete and styled and looks pretty cool and looks pretty fantasy-like. And that's what we like. Yeah, so that includes some of the basics that I wanted to, that I had to quickly run through yesterday. You know, that video from Wednesday that sort of led up to this point, that's in my Twitch VODs. It's also going to be on YouTube and be shared. If you go on Twitter and look up the hashtag how to do map stuff or HTDMS, you should be able to see a whole thread of this cartography stuff. So many of the cartographers yesterday do such cool things that sort of make my stuff look not as cool. But I really like, you know, the interactive fantasy mapping stuff is pretty unique, and definitely has been helpful when I run my campaigns. So especially right now too, I don't know if any of you guys play D&D or things like that, but it's just really cool for a remote session to be able to just send a URL to your party and have them all follow along and be like, okay, we were here, and be able to immerse them in the world this way. Even when we weren't remote, we would use this, and the DM would pull it up on a TV screen, their computer, and kind of can cover things. Let me show you. Don't mind this URL. It's just kind of weird. It's an inside joke. Here's a map that we were using for one of my campaigns. This is the first interactive fantasy map that I made. Some cool things that you can do as well is you can also add all of these different fields. I've got population, the type of the town, and I've added that above there, so that dynamically fills in the town of Fulst versus the city of Freehold. That dynamically changes. Population, description, points of interest in that town, like there's this temple, there's a bar called the Tipping Dinghy, and stuff like that. Then you can also go further and have hyperlink to a city map that you can make and just host as a URL, and there you have it. Then your users can be like, okay, here's the map of the city, and it's sort of treated as an actual map. You can also, if you wanted to get really in depth, you can create, just like we create land masses here, or this land cover stuff, you can go in and create buildings in here and make them small so that when you zoom in, they'll appear. You can do all that stuff if you want. But yeah, I agree, Clay. I think it's really cool to make it involved, make it more immersive, and which is something that I talk about in my talked about in my research was that, like, you know, if you can make your maps more immersive, people, you know, they're gonna like your games more. They're gonna like to use the maps more. So if you can have that two-way street of being immersed in the game and being immersed in the map, it's gonna benefit both parts about it. Yeah, I don't know. I think let's go back. I wanna add some new land cover things. So I'm gonna go in and edit this.
Holy moly.
Hey, thank you for the follow apostrophe. I appreciate it. Maybe I'll start streaming more. One thing I want to do is make an interactive map. I don't even know why. This is the stupidest thing. I want to make an interactive map of my Animal Crossing world. I don't know why. Just because I can, I think. And so maybe I'll stream that. Is make a interactive map of my Animal Crossing island. But for now, oh shoot. I messed up. There we go. Let's do some more GIS. Hey, Coffee Cartography Co. Welcome. You guys should go check out. His Instagram. He makes maps as well. Makes fantasy maps. Definitely. Oh, Nate, are you still here? Sorry, I don't want to get distracted. Definitely go check out Coffee Cartography Co. on Instagram. He's got some sweet maps and also does Q&As and talks about coffee. I feel like this is an awkward time to bring this up, but I don't drink coffee. I drink tea. Ugh, I hope that doesn't affect our professional Instagram relationship. We were spouting off about Zelda that other day. I enjoyed that. That was pretty fun. Talking about what a Zelda MMO would look like as well. Clay, don't go. No. You can go like his stuff and then come back. You can like both. Porque no los dos. I got a question from my buddy Nate, who might be in the stream. What code editing software are you using? How do you like it? Okay. Yeah, let's go back to, so what I was doing is, wait, oh, can you see this? Yeah. Okay, cool. Just the generic view. This is actually in glitch.com, Nate, if you're still watching. And if you're not, I will just text it to you. And I like it. It took me a little while to sort of learn about, and like I couldn't get having the different files in the time that I spent. I didn't spend too much time just mucking around with stuff, but so I've got everything all in the index HTML, like the styling and the JavaScript stuff. But it's really cool because it just renders automatically right here. I don't have to spin up, like a server, a local server to put it in a web browser. It automatically does that. Really cool stuff. And it's all public, and I can make it private if I wanted to. But right now, you can also just go here and then copy the project for yourself, download the code, take it into your own personal thing, whatever. But it's just really cool for doing live demos like this. And then sharing that code with everybody else so they can sort of interact with it as well. I had to reload and watch an ad. Hopefully. I don't think I get money for that ad. Not yet, at least. But yeah. Let me know if you guys have any other questions about mapping things too. But let's go do some GIS. Yeah, maybe we should do we could do a world building stream of like how we want this map to look. what forests we want. I'm gonna add another mountain over here. I'll just Bob Ross this. My name is Ross, so I might as well. Hi, we're just gonna add a little mountain over here, and you know, that mountain can look. Wow. That was scary for my Bob Ross thing. No more ads for you. That's right. Thank you for the sub, Clay. Now you can continue to spam the chat with the exclusive emote. I don't know if my voice is soothing enough. I can try though. Bob Ross. I am the Ross Thorne. On my LinkedIn, I'm the world's tallest cartographer. I'm 6'8". I don't know if it's world's tallest cartographer pending. I don't know if I am actually the world's tallest cartographer, but no one has proven me wrong yet. So I'm just gonna leave it as pending. Although in Japan, there was this other guy. I don't know where he was from, but he might have been taller than me, and other the people I was with had me walk behind him to see if they could compare if I was taller or he was taller. I think he was taller, but we didn't get an official measurement, so I'm still leaving it as world's tallest pending. So who knows? I didn't want to change my LinkedIn. But my torso is normal size, which is why I look short when people sit next to me. Just speak really soft and close to the mic. Bob Ross, yeah, exactly. Except for when he beat the devil out of it. I don't have anything to beat the devil out of, like a paintbrush, you know, when you're washing it. Gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, here we go. This mapping stream. Bob Ross type. We're going to... Let's add a little mountain over here. And this mountain can be in any shape we want. This is our little world. And if you make a mistake, that's okay. We can always go back in and edit it or cover it up, or just say that there's some sort of excuse for it. See, yeah. So I've added this polygon here, and now I misclicked over here. And this is too jagged and it actually looks like a polygon. My own little fun one-liners, yeah. I'd have to think, they have to like happen organically. You know, if they turn up, then I'll be able to, we'll hopefully identify those. Okay, so I messed up on this polygon here, but that's okay, because you don't actually make mistakes. Am I right? Bob Ross. But I can go into my vertex editor up here, and I'm going to just go ahead and either add more, or I can move the things that I put. So I'm going to add some more vertices here so that we can kind of smooth that out. And then, oh, it's still a little bit jagged. I kind of want to add, there we go. Maybe we'll do something like that. There you go. That's a little bit better. Another mountain over there. And let's add a couple forests in between here. Not totally not totally covered in forest, but just enough. Enough to make it interesting. Okay. See, I also don't like that. We'll smooth that out a little bit. And then I want to add a little bit more detail surrounding these two. A couple. Maybe that's a trail going through there. And as we can see, it's automatically, since I've already adjusted in my GIS software, I've already defined what color to make my polygons based on that type. So immediately when I create that polygon and I add the type of forest to it, it colors it the way I want. Yeah, this is just not working for me right here. So I'm going to delete some of these. I don't want those. I just want these. Or adjust them. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Got some stuff. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate it.
Aesthetics is the philosophical study of beauty and art.
We'll keep doing a little bit of mapping here of some of these land cover things. Maybe we'll even add a swamp if we're getting really saucy. And maybe some bathymetry. And then I'll talk about how we can overwrite our Mapbox styles, and then how we can continue to edit them, and then we'll see those live update when we go back to this map here, and then we refresh. Sometimes it takes a little bit, there's a little lag, but you don't have to push out any updates concerning the code and stuff. So yeah, I think we're gonna add one more forest in here, and then maybe we'll do a swamp in between, and that, like, maybe this is a highland over here and this is a highland over here, and then right in between here it kind of gets low and a little bit swampy, a little bit New Orleansy, right in here in this isthmus. Well, I guess it's not totally an isthmus because it's just an island. Geography. So we're going to add, I think, let me see if I still have my snapping to avoid overlap. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start this in the mountain. It should automatically snap appropriately, and then it won't overlap that mountain actually, but it will surround it, which is what we want. Boom, bam. Thank you, ma'am. And then let's add a couple little details around here just to make it interesting. And I'm going to delete that field of name because I'm not actually going to use that for my forests and my land masses yet. What did I just do? Oh. I made changes and it didn't save those changes yet, and then when I click save elsewhere, it didn't see those. There we go. Okay, yeah, let's add a couple more. Nice little like crescent shaped forest around here, and maybe we'll smooth that other one out. Doesn't look so jagged. Just a little patch of trees on the edge of the forest. We're gonna change the title of this to the Bob Ross of cartography. I don't even deserve that title. We're just doing it for a shameless plug. And I'll try to keep it low key. Yeah, one cool thing, like when you're making a map like this, the geography of the island itself is already pretty realistic. So then think about, like, okay, how would the mountains and stuff look? And you can always, we can look back to the elevation data itself. Oops, wrong one. For inspiration as well. What I like to do when I'm building a world, like here we can obviously see that, like, this could be like a river drainage network. Unfortunately for our island, like that's just a bay. But we can look here too of like, okay, if I want to just mimic some of the stuff, like maybe there is a mountain range. I've decided to not do that at all, but that's totally fine. You know, like we don't have to do that. I've decided to make just 2 highlands over here and mountains right there, and then in between is a little bit lower, and then go from there. So in here, in between here, we want some swamp. That's what we want. The island is maybe sinking or something. So I'm going to add a new boundary. Just keep clicking. The more you click, the higher resolution, the more vertices and the smoother it will appear. We'll say that that's been taken by the swamp. Now we're going to see probably a harsh default color for the swamp, just like that. Shrek swamp. So this is my swamp. But we don't want it to be colored that way because our aesthetic is much different. We want to have a little bit more muted. You know, I asked on my Instagram not too long ago, like what people usually think of when they think of a swamp color on a map. Like if you could only represent a swamp with a color, like what color would you choose? And there was a lot of different answers, like a muddy looking, a muddy dark color, a muddy green, like a teal color. I've used purple because which I think is kind of a unique, weird one, but it kind of depends, right? Because like I don't want to do a green here because like it's not then intuitive to know what's forest and what's swamp unless I include a legend. But even then, we still want our colors to be matching and easier to see. Swamp is a hard one though. Like swamps aren't actually purple. So let's think about that. We're gonna go into the land cover properties here and hit classify, and now it should see our new swamp. I'm going to remove one of these all other values ones. And swamp, it already gave us like this teal color. I'm going to remove the stroke from that, make it transparent, and then I don't know. Let's try this like a teal color. Make it kind of gray. Maybe not. Let's see. I think that's a pretty good swamp color. If we make it grayer though, how does that look? That's pretty good. I mean, that's kind of swampish. One good thing to look at too is like cartography swamp. A lot of times people end up doing textures. Like here's number one right here is some of these fantasy maps sort of take this topographic map swamp. They take on the aesthetic that's in these old USGS topo maps, which sort of show little patches, it's like a green covering. But then they sort of have like a bluish patches of what look like sprouts of grass or something like that. So that makes it submerged wooded swamps. Yeah. Oh, that's a good image right there. That's nice and crisp. So, and that's something we can actually do as well in Mapbox is have SVG patterns. I'm not going to do that right now. Maybe that'll be a different stream or something like that. But that's also a good way. Obviously you can do colors, you can do textures. If if you haven't had some formal training in cartography, I definitely look into what are called the visual variables, and that's all the ways that you can encode information into your map. If you put it in a weird, boring way, it sounds like that. But basically, like, you can use different visual aspects, different graphic aspects of the map itself and of the features to tell your user, what they're looking at. Like this pattern, you could call it a texture or a pattern, is one way. We can see a number of different visual variables in here itself. A couple of the different ones that I see are texture, this pattern of the swamp. We can see color. We can see this white color versus this green color. We can tell and assume that, okay, this must be forested and this must not be forested. We can see something. One of them is size, which could be seen in the thickness of these topo lines. That this is one of the index lines of 1300, and the thinner lines are not an index line or as important, you could say. These are square dots. If they had circle dots too, then we could definitely say that they're using shape as another thing to identify between different pieces of data on the map. It's way too zoomed in now. Cool. I think we're close. I do kind of like this color. Let's make it a little bit less saturated. That's like always my key. Make it less saturated. It's like my go-to thing. I like muted colors, and I sort of just like that aesthetic. That's a little too muted where you lose that blue. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but if we go a little bit too gray, it starts to seemingly lose the blue and sort of just become a little bit more green. And so we want to kind of keep it so that it looks bluish green. And then in stark contrast to the dark, like, hunter green of the forest and the blue of this, we can sort of almost tell ourselves, make a neon colored map. Oof. There are cool, like, yeah, that would be a challenge. But with Mapbox too, you can design your own. You can take existing map data and then just style it the way you want to, which is really cool with Mapbox. So here's a couple of these other ones. Madison Draper, she's a cool cartographer that works at Mapbox and makes some of these cool things. She spoke at NASIS. Amy Lee Walton, she makes some dope stuff. Yeah, I'm just looking for one here. Yeah, like this one by Tristan Brown here. If we go and look at this map, you can sort of just take the data and make it look the way you want to. So like all this data already exists in Mapbox, these roads and stuff like that. But Tristan made their own styling for it. So, and then you can embed this into a website if you wanted to, like, oh, here's where we're located or something like that. Here's our service area, and then make it look cool and customized. So that's something that Mapbox is really cool for. Yeah, this Frank Lloyd Wright inspired one as well, by my friend Claire Trainer. Yeah, this is gorgeous. This is like the aesthetic I love to go for, is like these muted colors, and we can see here she's also added this texture to the background as well. So you can do that for polygons in your maps too. So a bunch of cool stuff you can do in Mapbox. Unconventional ones too, like ice cream, where it's, oh yeah, this is neat. Nice muted colors, but it's like definitely eye-catching and popping, and makes it look unique. So tons of cool stuff you can do. I like, oh shoot. All right, we've got that swamp in there. Is there any other land cover types we want to add? So I got mountainous or barren. You could kind of cover it as either. Some of the other ones I've had, like the wild mount map, has such unique, like the map is really busy. There's a lot of different colors. Like here's the swamp, the purpley swamp that I have. There's also a forest that's got red leaves perpetually. So I had to make that kind of unique. This is sort of like an ashen gray. I kind of made it. Snow is also a good one. Yeah, we could add some snow polygons. Also, there's this river, which is like lava, I think. It's kind of crazy. There's a lot of things to encode in here, while trying to fit into a theme, but there's a lot of things that are like strict to represent. So that's one of the challenges in cartography, is making things still look cohesive, but different enough so that you can kind of tell, like this is all dirt, barren, covered. But I wanted to make it look different than the mountain, which I had already chosen and was locked into having like this tan for mountains, because that was what the Taldore one was, and I wanted to keep that the same. So, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, this map is for Critical Role, which is a really popular D&D streaming live play stuff, and this is the world of their second campaign. But I've also I did the world first of their first campaign. Here, and I based this on the official map that they released with a book, and so I kind of fell into this color scheme of like, I like this greenish water, this brackish looking water was kind of cool, and the swamps were purple already on that map, so I didn't even make that decision to make those swamps. There's a couple areas that, like, this is like dead trees, the Gray Valley or something like that. So when I made my new map that I knew was in the same world, Wild Mount map, I didn't go by the original cartographers, because this map was done by a different cartographer, with different styling and different things like that. So I wanted to make sure that my map, my new Wild Mount map, was cohesive with the Taldore map. So I had to, I made some judgment calls on how to do things like that. So, but I think it turned out well. I'm pretty excited. Right now, I'll just do another drop for this in my Patreon. My patrons get to vote on the next feature that I'm going to be including in this map. So if you're a big fan of Critical Role, if you're a fan of the show, or you use the world itself for your own D&D stuff, you can go to my Patreon, linked in my stuff below, and my patrons get to vote on what I'm going to be including next in this map. There's no minimum payment. It's sort of just an at-will thing. I just really appreciate any support. I'm not putting any of these things behind a paywall, so you'll always get to use the map for free. So yeah, there's that. Now we're gonna get back to our own little cartography. Much simple. Very wow. Yeah, this is a much simpler map. As we can see, we're not spending too much time in the detail of the shapes of the land. So we've got our mountain, forest, swamp. Let's add this snow up here. We're gonna have it be kind of just north of this mountain. Everything up here we want to be a snow-covered land. So the way we do that is going to be a little bit different now. Yeah, because we want we're going to use some geoprocessing. We're going to create a polygon that sort of just encompasses all of these islands, and then we're going to clip that polygon to only be on the islands itself. Hey Simon, thank you. I wonder if you're still watching, Simon. Thanks for watching. One of my grad school mentors is on. We worked on a project for paleoecology data. Thanks for tuning in. Oh yeah, there's all these other islands. I think the only thing we've published here is these. Actually, let's go back and look. Yeah. We'll okay, that's our northernmost island up there. So we are going to sort of we're going to make this big polygon, and it's only really going to matter when we get to the land here of how it's going to look. So we're going to kind of make a little bit of a jagged edge, and it's going to go right into the mountain, and then another little jagged edge, a jagged little pill edge. Alanis Morissette. Cool. And we're going to make sure all of our islands are covered. And this is going to look really crappy at first. Yep, we're done. That's it. So now we want this. We only want the pieces of this that overlap with our landmass. So we're going to do a little geoprocessing magic. We're going to go to Vector, Geoprocessing Tools, and we're going to do a clip. And we want to, the input layer is going to be the land cover. So if we think about the input layer, like if we think about clip as sort of like a cookie cutter relationship, our input layer is going to be the cookie dough. Our overlay layer is going to be the cookie cutter of where we want that dough to be in shape. So the input layer, the land cover tutorial, the overlay layer is going to be our land mass. That's going to be our cookie cutter. And we're going to just create a temporary shape, a temporary feature outside of this, and then we're going to append that to our original land cover one, if that makes any sense. So we're going to run this. Bada bing, bada boom. Now we see here. Oh yeah, it's done all of this stuff. So but now we've got this over here, so we can sort of take out. If we go into this clipped thing, and let's take a look at this, like this feature right here. It's all one feature. Let's go into the attribute table, and it's got a type of snow. So now we're gonna edit this so we can cut that out of this layer. Cut it out. And save that. That's fine. And then we're going to paste that back into our actual land cover layer. And so we want to toggle editing and then just do a Control V. Oops. No, we can't do that because we've got this big blob that's sort of taking over things. And so we want to delete this big blob. Big blob, get out of here. Now if we do paste. Cool. Now all of our features are successfully pasted, and they should still have that that snow. So then we can remove our temporary layer where we originally made that, and now we just need to style this snow. So we're going to turn off editing here and go into the symbology like we've done before. Classify it now that we have a new class, and snow is obviously going to be whitish. And we want a transparent stroke, just like our other ones. Boom, bam, thank you, ma'am. Now we've got our snow-covered islands. Cool. So now we've made changes to our landmass, but obviously they're not going to be automatically updated here. So we want to re-zip this up. So we've saved this. We already know where this lives, this land cover thing. Thanks, Clay. easy as pumpkin pie or something like that. Little mapping magic. So that way you don't have to trace all these boundaries. And most GIS folks, you know, like that's a pretty simple thing. But if you're new to GIS and new to mapping, like there's a lot of really cool processes that can make your life way easier. So we've got our map and we're going to stick with it. Okay, I'm going to close this. We're going to go to that file location. So the land cover tutorial. We are going to delete the old zip folder. And like someone mentioned in the stream on Wednesday, like you can make this as a GeoJSON and it's going to probably make your life way easier because shape files are weird to work with. But I'm already in this mess that I created, and I just have to deal with it. So we're gonna go to our land cover tutorial, and we're gonna select all of the shape files that have to do with that and zip those up. And call them land cover tutorial. Cool. So now we've got our new ones, and we're just gonna overwrite those in Mapbox. On our Mapbox tile layer. So back in Mapbox Studio, it's not going to be in our style. The style, if you think about the style as the actual the map, how do we think about this? The Mapbox style is the map, is the web map. The tile set is the different data you can have in the map. So you can have multiple tile sets, and that's what we do. We've got a tile set that is our land mass, and then we're going to have a tile set that is our land cover, and then we can also have a tile set that's our bathymetry, all going into one style. So what we're going to do is, since we've got this style, it's already referenced, since we've got this tile set and it's already referenced in that style, it would be a pain to create a new tile set, go back in there, add that tile set to the style, and then redo all of the styling we've done. Instead, we're just going to overwrite this or replace it with our new one. So I'm just going to go in here, click and drag land cover tutorial in there, and confirm that that's what we want to do. And so sometimes your browser and things, they cache they'll cache things for a while. So if you're doing this live and then doing updates and stuff, it's you won't see some of these things right away. But we're gonna wait till this succeeds. Okay, cool. It has succeeded. Let's go back to our Aquix style. So now it still looks like it's the old stuff, but like I said, things are cached. So if I zoom in here, it's sort of like it might respond. It also might not. Also, yeah, so I think it takes a little time to actually process and then be able to be fed into all of these into the styles that it's being called into. Let's see if we can sort of maybe empty our cache and reload here. Close some of these dev tool windows. Land cover. Let's see if it sees it in the data. Because if I add another data condition, oh no, it doesn't. Am I pulling in the right one? Did I overwrite the right one? That's also something to consider. Select data. No, that should be the right one. I think. It's only showing me these two polygons. Let's take a look. Land cover. No, that's my old one. Might just have to take some time. Sometimes these things just take time. But yeah. Unless... let's just double check here. Go back to the file location here. Land cover tutorial. Let's just see that that's where that's being sourced to. We're going to go back into our GIS software to make sure that we actually zipped up the right stuff. Because sometimes that also happens. Yeah, I'm not seeing it update. Could have made a whoopsies. 3 minutes ago. It's the hard part about working with things online, and sometimes they update easily and sometimes they don't. Okay, we're going to go into the properties of this layer and see where this is actually living under information. Documents, maps, project tutorials, land cover tutorial, shapefile. Yeah, okay. So I believe we've done the right thing, and it's just taken a little while to catch up. Yeah, does anyone have any, if you got any questions, let me know. Or if you've got any, tell me about any, if you are a cartographer, I'd love to hear about mapping projects that you're working on too. And if you've created a fantasy map, that's even cooler. Just sort of waiting for these things to show up here. Are there any default patterns? Not really. Let's close this and go back into Mapbox. See how that works. Not what we want. Not what we want. Holy moly. Oh, this is the real land cover. Mapbox also has some really cool stuff where they've got these styles already in there. So like actual land cover is in here. So we can see the world's actual data of the different land cover that they've got. And it's huge. Oh, and they've got hillshade in there too. How does that look? Oh, whoops. I'm mucked up. I'm mucked up. There we go. Cool. Well, yeah, it's taking a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take. That happens. You dig? 7 minutes ago. Two properties, number. Oh yeah, type it. ID. Well, huh. So it goes. Well, folks, I'll probably get logging off here, but yeah, hopefully this was a little bit more helpful, a little bit more easily paced than yesterday's stream for getting some of these bigger things and finer details of the web mapping portion. You should be able to find this on Glitch in the panels below. There is a URL to this actual project, Fantasy Map Tutorial. Should be public. You should be able to find it. Feel free to follow me on other things. I'll probably, maybe I'll tweet about these and put things on Instagram mostly about these fantasy maps, and maybe I'll do another stream. Yeah, like I said, I think I'd want to make my Animal Crossing map an interactive map, and so we can cover that process of how to do that. Why you would want to do that, I don't really know, because you can, and it's good practice maybe. Yeah, so I think that'll probably do it for today's stream. Thanks for everybody for dropping by and supporting all the people yesterday too. Or sorry, I keep saying yesterday. I mean Wednesday, when the stream workshop went on. It was really cool to see a lot of the presenters doing some amazing stuff. There's some really cool tips and tricks. I've linked to the schedule down in my panels below, and I think they're hosted online as well on YouTube, so you can go check them out now as recorded videos instead. Lots of good information. So thank you all for stopping by, and we'll see you later.
Brought levity to each other's lives. But there's a lot more to life than that, and I realized that in these last few years. And we just became very different people. And so we had nothing in common overnight. It's very strange.